much for joining me. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to back an embroidery hoop. So we will take a finished hoop, but not all the way finished hoop, and get it ready to hang on our wall. So here I have my hoop, and as you can see I have cut the edges, I have trimmed them down. You want this to be not too long so that it's like hanging everywhere, but also not too short, because we need to be able to get our needle and our thread through the back of the fabric all the way around. So here is the back of my hoop, and we are ready to get started. The way I like to back my hoops is, well, I already embroidered with 2 layers of fabric. I like to put a piece of cardstock in the back to help keep light from passing through it, as well as just giving it a nice clean look in the back. So as you can see, I've cut it to the size of my hoop, and I have traced my circle to the outer rim of the hoop. As you can see, this outer rim here, not the inner rim. But you want to be able to get it so that when you have your hoop in there, it gets trapped between the front wooden piece and the back wooden piece. So to go ahead and place this in, I am going to pop out my inner hoop from my outer hoop and put my cardstock in. So I'm going to gently remove the inner wooden piece so that my fabric keeps its shape of that circular hoop. And if you have any little threads or strands or tails sticking out, go ahead and try to push those back in, and then we'll place the cardstock on top. So it should fit perfectly if you have cut it to the correct size. Then I'm going to put that wooden inner piece back on top and gently flip it over. Once it's flipped over, I'm going to take my outer stained hoop and I'm going to put it over top. I'm going to center it, push it down, and begin to twist it. So I have it nice and centered here. I'm going to pop it back on, and I'm going to pull the outer edges of my embroidery hoop. Because this is our finished product, it's really important to make sure that your fabric is on the hoop nice and tight. Since we are backing the hoop, we are kind of making this official and giving it the final look. So we want it to be nice and tight. Remember, if you watched my video on how to put fabric on a hoop, you want that kind of trampoline effect so that the fabric bounces back. We don't want anything that's saggy or that looks unprofessional. So yeah, the key here is tightness. So just repetition of tightening your fabric onto your hoop and then twisting the top knob. So I have my hoop all tightened and ready to go, so I'm ready to back it, and the back is looking super clean, nice and fresh. And now I'm going to take my needle and thread and get started on backing it. For this hoop I use 3 pieces of thread rather than the full 6 DMC that come in a DMC embroidery floss, because it's kind of hard to pull it through. So I've used 3, and I'm simply going to go up and down around the border of the back of my hoop. I did come up from the base here. I would recommend coming up from the top, as later in this video you will see that I had to redo that portion, but it's an easy fix, and you could, if you wanted to, just tie the knot in the back of the hoop so that you don't have a knot at all. But as for me, I like to create a cute little bow. So if you want to create a bow, I would come through originally at the top. But all we're going to do here to back our hoop is go up and down. Just a simple series of going up and down. You can do this one tiny stitch at a time, or you can do like I'm doing, and I'm grabbing a bit of my fabric so that I can go through it multiple times within kind of one needle setting. So I went up and down and up and down, or down and up and down and up. So here I'm coming up. I'm going to pull it, Then you want to pull it tight, but not too tight. You don't want that initial thread to come out. And we need to leave enough space to tie a knot at the end. So I'm going down, up, down, and up. And then I'm going to pull it. And this is literally all we're going to do for the whole backing process. And keep in mind that this is only one way that you can back a hoop. There are other ways. For example, you could glue it. You could choose to cut your fabric very thin on the back and then just glue it over the edge of the inner bordered wooden hoop. But for me, I do not like this method, as once you do it, it is very permanent. Like, you don't want to have to rip all that glue apart, or like if your fabric does get stretched, it's much harder to fix it. So I prefer this method because, you know, if something does like get snagged on your hoop, or if it does come loose, you can easily cut this black string we're putting on the back, and you can re-pull your tightness of your hoop, or you can even take the back off if there's something you need to add, or if there's something you need to fix. So it's a very forgiving way of backing your hoop, as it is easily able to be disassembled. But there are other methods out there, and it's totally up to you. This is only one. Like, if you've embroidered your hoop, you obviously have the tools to do this. So it's just a simple way out, as well as I think it looks cute in the back like this. So, but that's totally up to you and your choice. So I'm almost here to the end. We're just going to do a couple more down and ups to get us there. And then we will be officially ready to tie it off. Alright, one little stretch here, and then we are good to go. Whenever you're finishing here, you'll want to get as close as you can, not too close, but pretty close to where you initially started, so that whenever you create your knot, you're already close to where your home base was. So I'm giving a nice pull here, and I am going to grab my other piece of string and just pull tight. You'll see how all the fabric is sticking up right now, but once we pull, it's going to come together and kind of flatten or wrap around the hoop. So there's our nice pull, and you can kind of help your fabric. If some of it's sticking up, you can push it down a bit. And there you have that part, and here's where I messed up. I put my thread on the bottom of my hoop, or the bottom of the fabric, but I'm going to transition that back to the top just so that it's easier to make a knot. So I'm going to thread my needle here, and I'm going to fast forward because it took me a couple of tries to get to threading my needle. Embroidery definitely comes with its struggles and its annoyances, and sometimes these little knots and threading your needle can really get you. So it got me here. It took me like 5 minutes to get that. So I will fast forward. And I'm back. So here I have both of my threads on top, and they are ready to be knotted. Before knotting this, I'm going to give it another nice tug. But I'm going to go ahead and, yes, give it a tug. So here is a tug, and you can see how it all pulls together. It looks nice. And I'm going to go ahead and put in my first knot, and I'm going to give it another tug just to make sure that it is all tight and secure as possible. So a really nice pull there, and then we're going to do this again to double knot it to make it officially in place. So here's my double knot, pull it super tight, and you could just leave it here and snip off those strands that are hanging down. But as for me, I like to create a little bow just to make it a little more cute and aesthetically pleasing in the back. So just pretend like you're tying your shoe, make a little bow, and then pull those two strands or the two tails so that you can downsize your bow, because I don't want my bow to be peeping out from the front of the hoop. I just want it to be seen in the back. So I'm going to pull the tails and then pull the two bunny ears or the bows just to get it to the size that I want it. So there you can see it's getting smaller. I'm going to give it one last tight, secure pull. You could hot glue it if you want, just to make sure it's in place, but I'm not going to be messing with this hoop. It's just going to be hanging on the wall, so I'm not worried about this. So I'm going to go ahead and snip these two tails off, and then our hoop back will be officially complete. So there we have it. This is how you back a hoop with some embroidery thread and a needle. It looks super cute, and so it's just an easy way to do it. There are definitely other ways to do it, and this is totally up to you. This is just one easy method. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that was helpful to you. And of course, happy stitching!